Okay, Carrie. So you mentioned that you published a book called Autism and Falling in Love. And I wanted to talk about some of your experiences. But first, could you maybe just give an overview of what some of the challenges are that individuals with autism face when they're looking for a partner?
Sure. So it's funny you bring this up. I was just giving a webinar on dating advice from an autistic relationship coach, which is available on my website, kerrymagro.com. Uh, this was some of my mentees call me the autistic hitch. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Will Smith, who's basically a date
Yeah.
doctor. Uh, Most of my mentees, 90, 95% of the time, they don't want to talk about job interviews. They don't want to talk about building a resume. They want to talk about the cute boy and the cute girl and how they could go about being in a relationship. And I think, especially when we talk about obstacles that our community have to face when it comes to relationship, it's again a very wide spectrum. Intimacy is definitely one big thing. Understanding different levels of intimacy and how to go about being in a romantic relationship. Uh, Open communication, being able to understand nonverbal body language, being able to also really be willing to listen. Because sometimes members of our autism community, especially when they have their key interests like locked in and talking to somebody, they could talk for hours on one specific topic. So making sure that to give your partner the opportunity to discuss and to listen to them. So those are some of the big things that I see, especially when it comes to dating.
Hmm. What have you learned about love from your experiences?
It can be a challenge. It definitely can be a challenge. No, but it's definitely well worth it. I've been in love numerous times throughout my life. I've been in over 7 or 8 relationships now throughout my life, both short and long term relationships. So I've kind of navigated a lot in the past 14 years since I had my first girlfriend when I was 18. I've learned that it's it's definitely an ongoing conversation between having a relationship with somebody else, making sure that you are understanding your wants and needs and making sure to put yourself first when it comes to those needs, and just making sure that you're finding somebody who is the right fit for you. And as
Hmm.
you get older, you understand that a little bit more. But that's what I've kind of learned about
Hmm.
love, especially in the past decade and change.
Are you in a relationship now?
I I got out of a relationship, and this was the craziest thing. I got out of a relationship maybe 4 weeks before COVID-19 happened. So I was in a very precarious situation, wanting to date, but unfortunately having to go through the trials and tribulations of virtual dating, which is the
Mm.
most bizarre topic.
Hmm.
That I think a lot of people in our community are facing right now. So I'm single and looking as of right now, at
Okay.
least.
Yeah. So do you date people on the spectrum and neurotypicals? Is it all mixed, or do you find that you get along better with one or the other?
I've never had the opportunity to date somebody who's on the autism spectrum. I've always been open to it, but it just never came up as a possible opportunity. So I definitely would be open to it in the future, but as of right now, I've only dated people who are neurotypical.
Hmm. So in your book, the subtitle is To the One That Got Away.
Yes. So a lot of people in our community, one of the misconceptions is that autistic people can't feel empathy for others. And some of the people I know are the most empathetic people I know, especially those who have autism. So I wrote as a part of the book, in addition to providing dating advice for those who have disabilities to pursue a relationship, I wrote a letter to the one that got away to really just show people that there are autistic people out there who do feel empathy for others and can have those connections with people. So I wrote a love letter to somebody who I was in a relationship with that just didn't work out, and just saying thank you for the opportunities to get to learn and learn about love from you. So, and I came
Mm-hmm.
out with that book in so it's been a while. So I came out with my first book, Defining Autism from the Heart, in 2013, focused on self-advocacy. And then Autism and Falling in Love came out in 2014. And then my children's book, I Will Light Up Blue, came out in 2019.
Mm-hmm. So, what should neurotypical people consider when dating someone with autism?
Definitely understand that you should always put the person first. I we live in this very digital age where I can't tell you how many of my friends have done a Google search of a potential date before actually going into the date. So
Mm-hmm.
just don't jump to conclusions, especially if you find out that they may be on the autism spectrum. Just consider them a person first. I mean, so many people in our community, again, they consider themselves an autistic person, but what I definitely recommend is, especially on those first few dates, really just try to understand who they are and if there's a connection, if you have similar interests. Just don't see it as, oh, I'm going on a date with somebody with autism. Just say, I'm going on a date with Kerry. I'm going on a date with this person. And that would be the best approach, I would say.
Have you ever had any experiences where disclosing your autism um, actually pushed someone away?
The only time it's really ever happened was being in the public spotlight. Sometimes uh, having partners not necessarily want to be in the spotlight as much and be more uh, not necessarily at movie premieres and not being at book signings, and having that public notice. So that's the only time it's really come up. Otherwise, people are just like, oh, okay, that's cool. And like, not like, oh, autism, I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure you've seen this or at least heard of the show Love on the Spectrum. And
Heard of it.
for our listeners who haven't heard of it, it's an Australian reality dating show. So, what do you think of Love on the Spectrum and how it was produced and the message that they're trying to put out?
I thought it was too short, being only 5 episodes on Netflix. I
Aren't they
definitely
coming out
love.
with another season or no?
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
We'll see. Uh,
Yeah.
I definitely loved. I loved a lot of things about it. Specifically, that it wasn't only autistic people dating autistic people. It was a well-rounded show of autistic people dating neurotypicals, and I really loved the concept of just trying to navigate several relationships to show that spectrum. I am just speaking with their crew a little bit. I am very hopeful that the next season will be a little bit longer. Hopefully, have a U.S. Component, and to also have relationship coaches that are autistic on the show, just to add another element. Because they did have relationship coaches on the show, but who weren't on the autism spectrum. And then also just having the opportunity to potentially have nonverbal people trying to find love, because I know several who are nonverbal and trying to find love today. So showing that perspective, I think, would really mean a lot to our community.
All right, Carrie, I'd like to close with one last question.
Sure.
What advice would you give to those on the spectrum who are looking for romantic relationships right now with the landscape of COVID times?
Uh, be patient, give yourself a break. Uh, I feel as though one struggle that I've kind of seen in myself is that being 21 plus 12, uh, I I kind of had a vision of what my love life would look like at a very early age, being married by 25, having kids by 30, and realizing during my journey in adulthood that, you have to understand yourself and understand where you are positioned in life. So I definitely recommend that people, especially during COVID times, understand that it is much more challenging right now. Online dating can be an avenue for you. Virtual dating can also be an avenue. Virtual speed dating can be an avenue for you. But at the end of the day,
Oh, could you talk a little bit more about that?
virtual speed dating,
Yeah. How does that work?
Zoom. It's literally like just being in a Zoom meeting with some of your colleagues, and you get a certain amount of minutes, and then they switch you to another breakout room where you get to talk to somebody else. So,
Wow. That's really
very
cool.
very interesting experience to say the least. But
Okay.
any anyways, in short, just remind yourself that there will be a quote unquote new normal eventually. So just be patient with yourself. Don't rush into anything that doesn't make sense for you. And just know that your partner is out there. They're just waiting for you, and just put yourself out there. I did a TV interview focused on Love on the Spectrum, the Netflix show, and talking about what would be my final piece of advice. And it's always that there is somebody out there for you. I've had several successful relationships when I thought I would never even kiss a girl. So definitely take note that you do have a very special someone out there, and it will come in time.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.